Hello guys, it's me, the FanFic Critic. You're probably patiently waiting for episode 181. It would have been here by now, but I've been having a lot of issues with converting my footage for it, seeing I'm using a new camera. Yeah, it's been several days of trying to do this. I've tried different methods and let's just say it's not been very successful. So I'm hoping that I will have the episode out by tomorrow. And again, I'm very sorry it's taking so long. So in the meantime, we're going to be doing another dramatic reading. Now for those who have been paying attention to the whole drama on the Net Dwellers involving a certain someone called the Black Knight, and also for people who have been following the videos of Realm Wars, you're probably kind of aware of what's been going on with this guy. Well, yeah, the Black Knight, he was someone on the Net Dwellers who, let's just say he just was not letting something go. He was kind of having this big grudge against Youngblood Fantasy 91 and the Honest Reviewer, and despite the fact that myself and several other members told him to just stop, let it go, and stop, putting the site in an unnecessary drama, he was not listening. So he ended up getting banned. And on the day he got banned, he posted an interesting fanfic called FanFic Critic Chronicles Susan's Punishment. That's what we're going to be reading today. Okay, this is the description. Alternate ending to episode 180 of FanFic Critic. The FanFic Critic feels that the only way to save Susan from her destructive actions is to punish her severely. Warning, contains disciplinary spanking of an adult. Don't like, don't read. Okay, let's not waste any time.
Hello folks, the Black Knight is here with another FFC fanfic. This is a one-shot that is an alternate ending to episode 180. Warning, this fanfic is what some would call a quote-unquote spank fic. If you don't like it, don't read it.
And yes, there are a lot of spank fics on fanfiction.net. A whole lot of them. I unfortunately looked it up one day just out of curiosity, and yeah, it was amazing how many there were. I guess it's kind of a fetish. Oh, and it looks like he did a little update. This little bit right here was not here before in his author's note, so let's read what it says. Update. A lot of people on YouTube think I wrote this fanfic about the FFC as revenge for her banning me. Laughing face. Man, the people on the net these days sure are delusional. If they had even bothered reading the full extent of the story, they would clearly see that this isn't some revenge fic, but a fic to symbolize how much FFC and Susan care for each other. So they care so much for each other that they're willing to severely hurt each other. And if you think a spanking's not that bad, I've read this story already, and trust me, it gets pretty bad. I'll read the 2 reviews this story got after I'm done reading this story as a whole. Gotta love how much these children are trying to villainize me. Lol. I'll sum up my thoughts on this whole thing at the end of the reading. So let's not waste any time. Okay. Susan immediately got up from her bed as the door to her room opened. The fanfic critic entered, wearing a deadpan expression on her face and holding a hairbrush in her right hand. Susan glanced down at the hairbrush and then looks at the fanfic critic in confusion. All it took was the look in the critic's eye to answer Susan's unasked question. Her eyes widened slightly. Yes, she knew that the critic had every right to punish her for what she had done to Archangel Assassin, but a spanking? Take your pants off, the critic said softly, walking past Susan as she spoke. I'll remove the underwear once you're settled. The fanfic critic sat down on Susan's daybed and kept her gaze down. Susan nervously undid the button and zipper of her jeans. She quickly slid them down her hips and then her legs. After that, she kicked them off. She then approached the bed and awkwardly laid down so her butt was resting on the critic's lap. The fanfic critic handed Susan a pillow. Use this to support your head, she explained as Susan took the pillow from her, because this is going to last a while. Susan shivered slightly as she felt her underwear being pulled down. Oh my god, the visual. The fanfic critic pulled them down a good 3 inches below Susan's cheeks. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh. Okay. Just so you know, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. FFC said with a hint of hesitation in her voice. Susan swallowed and closed her eyes as she felt the hairbrush lightly touch her rump 5 times, each time in a different spot. This was the fanfic critic's way of determining where she was going to apply the hairbrush. The first was on the top left cheek, the second was on the top right cheek, the third was on the bottom right cheek, and the fourth was in the bottom left cheek, and the fifth was dead center. Susan understood the pattern. It would be a way to prolong the spanking without causing bruising, but ensuring that the quote-unquote message would get through. Wasn't the slap across the face in the original episode enough? I mean, really? A few seconds passed. Susan guessed this was the critic's way of giving Susan a chance to brace herself. Then it began. Yeah, those 2 sentences were nothing but lard. Smack, 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 smack. The first 5 smacks were directly focused on Susan's top left butt cheek. A pause. Smack, 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 smack. The second set was on her top right cheek. Another pause. Oh my god, are they really going to drag this out like this? Smack, smack. You get the idea. Next 5 smacks. Susan clenched her jaw as this set was delivered to her bottom right cheek. Another pause. Okay, you already said what the pattern was going to be. You don't need to restate it. Another 5 smacks. Susan felt the critic's left arm wrap itself around her waist and hold her still as the critic applied these painful strokes to Susan's bottom left cheek. Was the critic holding herself still, or was she holding Susan still? A pause. Another 5 smacks. Susan's eyes closed tightly as these strokes were applied to the center of her bum. It would not have surprised her if her butt was already red. Gee, what gave you that idea? The fanfic critic didn't waste any time and began the pattern again. Yeah, this is where it starts to get overdone. Okay, 5 smacks. This round appeared to be harder than the last round. Susan could feel the tears coming but remained silent. Another 5 smacks. She was going to take this like a man, woman. Yeah, ha ha ha, not funny. Another 5 smacks. Isn't Meg's arm getting tired? Susan thought to herself desperately. Another 5 smacks. Susan hugged the pillow. She had her head on a bit tighter. How can she hug the pillow if her head is on it? Another 5 smacks. Susan almost sighed with relief with this final set. The critic's arm was still around her though, which means ... Another 5 smacks, and the pattern began once more. Well, the FFC had told Susan this was going to be a while. Yeah, this goes on for a while, guys. Another 5 smacks. This is hurting her more than me, bollocks, Susan thought to herself as she flinched from the strokes. Another 5 smacks. It was becoming harder and harder for Susan to hold back her grunts and cries. Yeah, in reality, she would be sobbing her eyes out at this point. Another 5 smacks. At this point, she was flinching with each stroke, which was causing the critic's grip around her waist to tighten. Okay, this is getting overdone. I mean, really. This is just a way to drag the story out for a ridiculous amount of time. Another 5 smacks. Susan desperately hoped that this would be the final set, but she knew it wasn't. 5 smacks. Susan buried her face in the pillow in an attempt to prevent herself from crying out. Another 5 smacks. The fanfic critic clearly was not going to be stopping anytime soon. Yeah, I think we kind of figured that. It may have been just Susan's imagination, but the strokes appeared to be getting harder with each round. Another 5 smacks. There wasn't much of a pause between the strokes anymore either. Another 5 smacks. At this point, Susan had begun to cry softly. If the critic had noticed, she didn't appear to be fazed by it. Another 5 smacks. Susan heard the sound of the hairbrush being put down on the bed, but the critic's grip around her waist was still tight. Just so you know that this is personal, it was evident to Susan that this hopefully final round was going to be applied by the fanfic critic's hand. Okay, it says like smack like 25 times. Yeah, 25 times. These slaps were a lot quicker and less painful than the strokes applied with the hairbrush. Still, the pain from them was enough to cause Susan to go into a hysterical sobbing fit. She didn't notice that the critic had released her from her iron grip. Yeah, seeing how I have depicted Susan's character, I highly doubt she would be all fine and dandy with the fanfic critic doing this to her. And if it was the roles reversed, I don't think the critic would be allowing Susan to do this either. If the critic tried to do this to Susan, Susan would shoot her with a face pistol, and if Susan tried to do this to the critic, well, yeah, she probably would have got punched in the face or something. So yeah, this is, wow. Let's continue. Shh, calm down, Sue. It's over now. FFC said softly as she gently rubbed her sobbing friend's back. That's the thing I really love about these stupid spanking fics. It's like right after they get severely spanked, they're all like babying the person that they just spanked. It's so stupid. I've never understood the concept of these. She examined her cousin's sore butt. It was very red, almost purple. FFC was satisfied that there wasn't any bruising. Yeah, I highly doubt there wouldn't be any bruising after that. As she continued to gently rub Susan's back with her left hand, the FanFic Critic carefully pulled Susan's underwear back up with her right hand. She then gently rubbed her cousin's sore rump. Oh, God. I know that they may have appeared to be harsh, but you did kill someone today. Dragon Balls or no Dragon Balls, it's not okay to kill people because you're mad at them. So what, did Susan like revert to like a 5-year-old or something, and the critic is now her mother? As the critic spoke, Susan slowly began to calm down. The FanFic Critic carefully maneuvered herself from underneath Susan's hips. Why was she under... Oh, okay. So she could get up and retrieve Susan's jeans. When she got them, she went back over to Susan and carefully turned her cousin onto her back so she could get the jeans back on Susan. So what, was the spanking so severe that it completely rendered Susan paralyzed so she couldn't get up and get them herself? I'm truly sorry that I had to do that, but you needed to understand how your actions lately have been making me feel. So Susan's actions lately have been making your butt feel really sore? Talk about butt hurt, no pun intended. The FanFic Critic zipped up Susan's pants and secured them shut with a button. She then got on the bed, pulled Susan up into a sitting position, and hugged her tightly. She allowed Susan to cry into her shoulder. I am sorry. Susan mumbled weakly. The FanFic Critic rubbed her cousin's back gently. I know you are, and I have forgiven you. She pulled away to look Susan dead in the eyes. She held her cousin by the shoulders firmly. Promise me that you will not lose it like that again. I care about you a lot, Sue, and I don't like what you're becoming. I promise, Susan replied sincerely. She looked like she was going to lose it again. The critic pulled her into a hug again. Repetitive word is repetitive. Good. Since that moment of bonding, Susan eventually became her good old self again. She overcame her guilt for killing the FFC in self-defense. This eventually led to the FanFic Critic forgiving herself for her own dark past. And so the two lived happily ever after. The end. Okay. Let's read the reviews. One of the reviews is actually my review. Okay, let's take a look. I'll read the other review first, and then I'll read mine. First person, it's an anonymous reviewer. They call themselves I'm Okay. This is what they said. So, because of receiving a spanking, Susan magically isn't psychotic anymore. Yeah, that would not work. I could barely support spanking a child. The only time I see it would need to be done is if the child did something extremely severe. As for spanking adults, I know some people enjoy that kind of stuff, but to spank an adult for discipline just seems silly. I know that the creator of FSC plays Susan as well, and the visual I get from this is just her smacking herself with a hairbrush. So, yeah. You know what, that's kind of the visual I got too. Yeah, I was thinking of maybe doing a spoof video for this fanfic, but I think the dramatic reading will be enough. So let's read the review I gave this person. Okay. I'm not sure if you wrote this because you're still mad about being banned from the Net Dwellers, or if you wrote this because you have a spanking fetish. Either way, this fanfic is just bizarre. So, the FFC spanks Susan for killing Liz. Liz is Archangel Assassin, by the way. Okay then. I think the slap across the face would have been enough. A spanking with a hairbrush, though, yeah, no. As for the punishment Susan receives, it's a bit extreme, don't you think? Especially seeing you had Susan get whacked a grand total of 125 times. Yes, I actually counted that when I wrote this review. And that's including the end bit with the FFC using her hand for the final 25 hits. Susan's ass would not only be bruised, it would be black. Yeah, a tad extreme. Well, I guess I should thank you for writing this because I can just envision how I would have FFC and Susan react to this. Still, that doesn't mean this is a good story, and that doesn't mean that I like it. You used to be a good author, but you've just been declining with the quality of your stories. And that is true. Even before the whole thing with the Net Dwellers, this person let's just say every single fanfic they've written has been about my web show characters. Now, you know, I don't really mind if you guys write fanfics about them, but a lot of their fanfics were, I don't know, it just seemed like kind of like the same thing over and over and over again. And they even wrote one where it was kind of implied that Susan rapes the fanfic critic in it, and yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't think they wrote this fanfic as a revenge thing because I banned them, and if they did write it as a revenge thing, it's really childish of them to be doing so. They're claiming that they didn't, but I don't know, they might just be saying that because they don't want to get the bad attention, but then again, it seems like they're kind of liking the attention they're getting. But either way, the fanfic was just yuck. And as for the whole thing in regards to the whole net dwellers, you know, Black Knight, you're not doing yourself any favors by, you know, putting that author's note in your story like that, trying to imply that people are being childish because of how they're perceiving your own actions. I'm sorry, but your actions are kind of making it come up, or I see you wrote this as a revenge fic. And there was something on their profile I really wanted to take a look at, too. They put down at some point, okay, awesome places to check out. Check out the site called The Net Dweller. Despite the fact that I got banned from there, it is still a cool site. When some time passes, I will return to it, probably under a different name. Also, the folks on there, with the exception of one honest reviewer, are pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be allowing you to come back, and if you do try to come back, you might want to choose a different name, because after what I've been seeing from you lately, and this is not just from your fanfics, I don't think I'm going to want you to come back. I know I said to him that he could come back someday, but unless he majorly changes, I don't want him to come back, especially if he's going to be acting like this. Now, people, this is why you do not make an ass of yourself on the internet. This is why you don't do it. So if you find yourself starting to make an ass out of yourself, change quickly before it gets bad, because I used to like this guy, but now he's just kind of a crazed maniac in my opinion. So yeah, thank you all for watching this dramatic reading, and hopefully episode 181 will be up soon. So have a nice day, guys. Take care.